they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting going on. And you know this better than you're trying to play political games. There's no arresting of U.S. personnel.
Of the U.S. military against members of the protest. Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I said in your hearing, when you had your confirmation hearing, that my biggest concern with you at the helm was the potential use of the military in ways that contradict the Constitution or that taint what I hope we all want, which is an apolitical military. And when I asked you about whether you would accept an order that was actually given to your predecessor, Secretary Esper, Trump's SecDef, to deploy active duty troops against unarmed protesters and to, in Secretary Esper's words, shoot at them, shoot at their legs, you said this was all theoretical. Here we are, a few months later, you've deployed 4,700 troops to Los Angeles and against the wishes of the governor. And my colleague across the aisle was right. It is the first time since 1965 that we have deployed Guard troops without the permission of the governor. In all the instances he laid out, the president had sent in the military to protect protesters, not against the protesters. So you may dismiss it, but I feel like this is a fundamental issue of American democracy. If you love your country and you want an apolitical military, then it should be the last resort, not the first resort in our country to use them. So to get to the non-theoretical, have you authorized the uniformed military to detain or arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Senator, I would just start by saying you're not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at
Arrest
law
those
enforcement
people.
officers.
Throw them in the jail. 100%. But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows this is a political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's their job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today? It's a yes or no thing, authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man, list it out. Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual, did you authorize them to do that?
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are there
so say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement,
do they have
ICE
the ability to arrest?
Who are trying to do their job, deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous administration.
So they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting going on. And you know this better than you're trying to play political games. There's no arresting of U.S. personnel.
Of the U.S. military against members of the protest. Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good. I love that answer. That's great. Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues across the aisle.
What is that based on? What evidence would you have that an order like that has ever been given?
Giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life, so I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh, my God. So your former predecessor, I guess that's not enough for you. Okay, on Iran. I don't think there's a debate. There's like a cat fight going on in your own party about whether to go after Iran. Have you commissioned any day after planning? So any force protection, any use of ground troops in Iran, any cost assessments? Because I don't think we doubt what we can do as a country in the attack. It's the day after with Iraq and Afghanistan that so many of us have learned to be so deeply concerned about. Have you authorized day after planning?
As I've said, we have plans for everything, Senator.
Okay.
And I would also reiterate how we began, that there will be a classified portion of this 15 minutes after we adjourn.
At today's Senate Armed Services Committee hearing, Senator Elissa Slotkin, Democrat Michigan, clashed sharply with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over the use of U.S. military forces in domestic matters. The exchange quickly turned into one of the most heated moments of the session, with Slotkin pressing for direct answers on whether the Pentagon had crossed constitutional lines. Slotkin opened by revisiting concerns she raised during Hegseth's confirmation process, that his leadership could invite politicization of the armed forces. She recalled how Trump once ordered former Defense Secretary Mark Esper to deploy troops against unarmed protesters and even suggested they be shot in the legs. Esper had refused, documenting the incident in his book, which Slotkin cited as proof of real-world precedent, not speculation. Now, she argued, the situation was no longer theoretical. She pointed to the deployment of 4,700 troops in Los Angeles against the wishes of the state's governor. According to her, it marked the first time since 1965 that federal forces were sent in without gubernatorial approval. If you love your country and you want an apolitical military, she said, then it should be the last resort, not the first resort. Slotkin pressed Hegseth repeatedly with a simple question. Had he authorized uniformed troops to detain or arrest protesters? Hegseth responded by saying that anyone throwing concrete or engaging in violence should 100% be arrested, but maintained that the uniformed military's orders were limited to supporting law enforcement. He conceded that in cases of self-defense, troops could temporarily detain individuals until they were handed over to immigration authorities, but denied that the military had been ordered to directly arrest protesters. Unsatisfied, Slotkin accused him of dodging. It's not theoretical. It's a fundamental issue of American democracy, she argued. Be clear, yes or no. Each time, Hegseth declined to give the definitive answer she demanded, instead repeating that orders were public and insisting critics were playing political games. She then raised another concern, whether the Defense Department had authorized the use of military cyber tools to investigate those participating in the protests. Hegseth answered, certainly in no way that I'd be aware of, a response that drew rare approval from Slotkin. The senator, however, returned to the most serious issue, lethal force. Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against unarmed protesters? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Hegseth dismissed her reference to Esper's book, warning against believing everything you read, except for the Bible. Slotkin shot back that Esper had shown more courage by refusing an order that violated his conscience, contrasting it with Hegseth's unwillingness to clearly deny authorizing such measures. Their exchange underscored deep divisions over the role of the military in civil unrest, and whether its use reflects law and order or political muscle. Slotkin, who has served alongside the military for much of her career, warned that blurred lines between civilian policing and military deployment risked eroding public trust in the institution. Toward the end of her time, Slotkin shifted gears to U.S. strategy toward Iran. She pressed Hegseth on whether the Pentagon had carried out, day after planning, assessments of troop involvement, costs, and the aftermath of potential strikes. Citing the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan, she argued that the aftermath of war was just as critical as the decision to attack. Hegseth declined to provide specifics, saying only that, we have plans for everything, and promising more detail in a classified session after the public hearing. The confrontation captured a larger debate about the boundaries of military power at home and abroad. Slotkin framed it as a defense of democratic values and constitutional limits, while Hegseth attempted to project steadiness and downplay accusations of political motivation.